We'd like to call the Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting for Monday, June 17th, 2024 to order. We'll start with Ms. Carrie Sanders, one of our assistant county managers, who will lead us in the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and conduct the business of Onslow County. Lord God, during these months of summer, guide our steps and strengthen our hearts. May our community be a place of joy, peace, and safety. Let all the joys of summer remind us of your goodness. Bless our citizens, first responders, and those defending our nation. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Amen. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here tonight, join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to call up two of our special guests, Ronnie Bowman and Sean Finney, who have recently earned their Eagle Scout, and they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Excuse me.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and we appreciate Ronnie and Sean joining us this evening. And we ask that all in attendance please set your cell phones before we do all that. Let's acknowledge Mr. Rick Grant, Alderman from North Topsail Beach, and our Register of Deeds, Amiga Jarman, is here. And in the back, as always, is our Sheriff, Mr. Chris Thomas. Any other elected officials come in this evening?
Brad Williams.
I spoke to Mr. Williams, Vice Chairman for Board of Education. Mr. Bradley Williams is here as well. We appreciate everyone attending this evening. We also ask that everyone in attendance please set your cell phones to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers the public one opportunity to speak during the meeting. Comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be on any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners has control. In accordance with the board's adopted rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda. So we'll start with item 1. We need the motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, we have an adoption of the agenda. And now, do we have any board members with questions or concerns and would like to remove an item on the consent agenda and add it to the main agenda?
Chairman, I would like to remove item C, Senior Services Home and Community Care Block Grant Agreement to the regular agenda, please.
Okay, so we're going to remove item C, Senior Services Home and Community Care Block Grant Agreement, to the agenda. We'll move that to the back of the agenda. We now need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda has been approved. Item 3, Mr. Smitherman, public comment.
Yes, sir. We have 3 people signed up to speak this evening. The first one, not going to be able to get the last name perfectly, but I think it's Dan Mayo? McGee. Come on.
Dan something. Dan something.
Good evening, board members. I had an issue with, I'm sure that you all know that Onwassa took over Polaris last year, and the issue that we're having is that there's no meters for the sewer system. And so my bill last month, I had 27,000 gallons of water use because I have an irrigation system put in. And my issue isn't the amount of water I'm being charged. My issue is that I'm being charged for that water that goes into the ground, into the sewer. I went down and spoke to Onwassa themselves, and I spoke to Miss Linda, lovely ladies down there. And she had spoke to a Mr. Frankie Howard, which I believe is the CEO down there. excuse me, and he told me, or he told her to pass on to me that there's nothing they can do about that. And I just don't think that it's right that I have a $430 water bill and $230 of that water bill is sewer alone. I'm more than willing to obviously pay my fair share of the sewer that I'm used. And in the meantime, what I've done is taken their outlet where you can purchase a water meter for $1,620. That was about 2 weeks ago. They said that it would take 2 to 6 weeks for it to come in, so I'm waiting on that to come in. But for this month and last month and the previous month, I'm getting these big bills, and I know that the next one that they just metered earlier in this month will be coming up, and I'll get another $450 sewer/water bill. And I don't know if that particularly falls under the commission's preview or if there's anything to be done like that. It just doesn't seem like, when we talk about community, it doesn't seem like that's the right thing to do, is to say there's no way we can do anything when we can use common sense and take our water bills and look that I used less than 1,000 gallons in January, and that's the sewer I get charged for. But now 27,000 gallons, cool, I'll pay for the water, but another $230 for sewer just doesn't seem right to me. And that's all. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, here is Christina Fernandez.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the Board of the Commissioners, the viewers on G10, and also Onslow County residents. My name is Christina Fernandez. I'm with the Onslow Hispanic Latino Association. I reside at 126 Harvest Moon Drive in Richlands, North Carolina. I'd like to talk to you this evening about our Summer Latin Fiesta, which we'll be having Saturday, July 27th at the Commons Recreation Center from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm going to turn it over to my Vice President, as also my Festival Coordinator, who will speak more about the festival.
Hi, my name is Mildred Latino Thomas. I just wanted to say thank you personally to you guys for helping us and supporting our event last year. And we hope, once the budget gets approved and everything, that you guys will support it again this year. We just kind of wanted to give you guys an update. Our event last year had 7,500 people, which is huge because it was our first time ever having this event, and we're hoping that this next year, July of this year, we'll have even more people. So we'll have lots of different things, food vendors, lots of different vendors, regular vendors, performances. Marine Corps Band will be performing as well, and we hope you guys are able to come, and the community that is watching us today as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, our final speaker this evening is Rick Grant.
Hi, Chairman, Commissioners, real quick. I saw the proclamation for Ocean City. Just to remind everybody, I know you all know, Commissioner Bennett's going to be there on the 5th. That's going to be the 75th anniversary of Ocean City for us in our town. And the other thing is their big deal is the Jazz Festival, which is July 5th through 7th. I would say if you're coming, get there early because parking, we have so many people show up for that, and it's online to buy tickets and everything else, but it is a big deal for our community. And again, it's their 75th anniversary. I saw it. Thank you again for the proclamation, David, as well. So I hope everybody can come. It should be a good time, and thanks.
Thank you, sir.
That's all for public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We appreciate that, and remember that if any comments are made, those will be made at the end during the commissioner comments. So we'll move right on to presentations with the first one, a proclamation. Ms. Sanders?
Mr. Chairman, before Ms. Sanders proceeds, we were notified after the agenda was produced that there were supposed to be about 24 Eagle Scouts here this evening. That was not able to occur. You have adopted this proclamation. You certainly can read it this evening. I would recommend that even if you do read it, that we do it again when we can get these boys in the room. and we're working to reschedule that at a coming meeting. But the proclamation has been adopted. You won't have to adopt it again when they come for a special presentation. But my recommendation this evening would be to wait for the presentation of that proclamation until all those boys are able to join us.
Okay. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait, we'll hold that until we can get all the Eagle Scouts in the room to share that. It's a great idea. So we'll move to B, the Onslow County Hospital Authority Audit Report. And that is going to be presented by Ms. Karen Fitzsimmons.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, thank you for having me this evening. Again, Karen Fitzsimmons. I'm an assurance partner with BDO. Would like to remind the Commission this is BDO's first year as appointed auditors for the Onslow County Hospital Authority. So I wanted to give you an overview of our audit of the September 30th, 2023. We were tasked this year from a scope of work standpoint to audit the combined financial statements of Onslow Memorial Hospital Authority. In addition, we also were tasked with doing the single audit of the schedule of federal awards. And in addition to that, we were looking at also debt compliance and the debt service coverage ratio. We issued an unmodified opinion on the combined financial statements for the authority. The scope of our work was as we set out. For this first year, I'd like to emphasize under the first year audit, we did, as you would expect, do a deeper dive being appointed auditors. So we did review and coordinate with the predecessor auditors, which were CLA. We reviewed their work. We spent a lot of our time this year understanding policies and procedures, as well as any estimates and anything underlying the financial reporting and those disclosures. So it's a much more deeper dive than you would in succeeding years. We had no issue with any of the policies or procedures or the estimates underlying the financial reporting. In addition, we issued an unmodified opinion on the internal controls over compliance, as well as compliance with respect to the schedule of federal expenditures, so those related to the HUD program, as well as any of the remaining funds that were received under COVID. In addition, this year I wanted to highlight some of the significant changes for the audit. As those of you may be aware, there was an effort by the state of North Carolina for a HASP program for all of the hospitals in North Carolina to increase the reimbursement to the Medicaid program. That did take effect and was retroactive back to July 1 of fiscal year, so it would be July 1, 2022. So that did impact this year under audit. We did take a look at the estimates to retroactively go back and give additional funds to the hospital. That impact to the financial statements this year was approximately $16 million. So it was not insignificant. And we did review that and ensure the proper accounting and disclosures related to that program. In addition, there was a required new standard to be adopted by the authority this year under GASB standards, and that's related to subscription-based information technology. Those were very much like the leasing standard, so basically any of those arrangements were capitalized on the balance sheet, and the hospital did adopt that. We reviewed that adoption this year. We had one minor audit adjustment that was recorded in the financial statements, but it was not very significant. And then from the other results of the audit, we did have a few adjustments that were not recorded as part of the audit that were passed upon that were determined to be immaterial, and those related to one related to any accruals that were made in the hospital's financial statements that were related to reserves under FEMA or HRSA for some of those programs for any contingencies. There was nothing that warranted under GAAP that there should be an accrual. So we did propose an entry related to that, and it was passed upon. It was not material. It was to about $1.5 million. In addition, we did have one other audit adjustment entry for about $480,000 that just related to the cutoff of revenue recognition for the year. That would have increased revenue to the hospital's financial statements just to ensure proper cutoff capture at the end of September 30th. Absent that, we also, from an internal controls perspective, we did not have any material weaknesses in internal control. We also did not identify any significant deficiencies or have any other control deficiencies reported. So overall, a very good report for this year for the authority, very clean. And I would just like to point out for the year under audit, just a couple measurements from the audited financial statements. So for this year, the authority had about $190 million reported in operating revenues, operating expenses about $173.4 million. So actually reported operating income this year was $16.7 million, and an increase in net position about $16.4 million after you take into account investment income and interest expense. So overall, a good year. Happy to entertain any discussion or questions that you might have regarding the audit or anything that I've discussed.
Questions? All right, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We'll move to item 5, public hearing. And I think Mr. Smitherman.
Yes, sir. Before we open the public hearing, I am going to just give a brief summary of the budget for those that did not attend or otherwise hear our presentation on June 30th. For those of you that were with us on June 30th, we spent, we spent a good deal of time presenting the proposed budget for FY25. We're not going to do that same presentation tonight, so we'll try to make it a little quicker and just provide the highlights of the items that are about to be considered in this year's FY25 budget public hearing. First of all, there are new taxes or fees. Our emphasis is on taking care of what we have, not enhancing our services, but bringing our service levels to a reasonable standard. We're making considerable investments in our employees, and mostly we are spending a year doing the planning that's necessary to carry our government forward for the coming 5 years through an extensive strategic planning process. The number that most people care about is the $304 million that comprises our general fund. That is pretty much everything you expect it to mean, everything we do in government, minus solid waste, which is an enterprise fund, and the airport, which is an enterprise fund. We had robust growth, mostly in our sales tax category for FY25. And as of this budget, we are at about $21.6 billion of taxable real property on the books in Onslow County. We are a financially healthy local government. You have seen to make that happen through previous year's activities, but more importantly this year, establishing goals and policies to guide the financial management of this organization. One of those goals was related to fund balance, and you see, according to this chart, our estimates show that by the end of FY25, we should be meeting all of your minimum goals as it relates to fund balance health. You spent time creating new mission and vision statements for this organization. We want to be the community of choice in coastal North Carolina, and to do that, we have to spend some work planning our activities. You chose 5 top priorities for us to be working on out of about 20 or more projects. These were the top 5 things you want us working on this year and throughout FY25. And this budget addresses all of these 5 topics in some way, shape, or form. Here's where the money comes from in FY25, overwhelmingly to the tune of 82%. It comes from taxes and fees. That is the majority of where we get our money is through real estate, personal property, sales tax, and then fees for service. And where do we spend our money? Overwhelmingly in human services, public safety, and education. Those 3 combined equal, I didn't do the math, but a significant more than significant portion of our annual work plan. Big emphasis this year on employees, keeping the ones we have, and most importantly, improving our recruitment position. We know that we have to do more to get the highest quality people working for our government, so we must be competitive with the marketplace. And we need to show our employees, both current and future, that we value their tenure here, and we want it to be a long tenure. And the components of our valuing and investing in an exceptional workforce program, the VIEW program, are aimed at that recruitment and retention view. We did have challenges putting together this audit. We were a new budget team, the county manager, the county finance director, and the budget manager. All three of us, this is the first time we've done a budget in Onslow County. We did have some holdovers that helped us navigate the waters, but the organization doesn't have a great amount of institutional knowledge in the finance department that understands the nuances of certain both revenue and expenditure items. But we did a great job. Our interim finance director has a wealth of experience and helped guide us through the process, and we got through very well. Another challenge in our budget was the loss of about $1.6 million in Medicaid hold harmless payments. And then another challenge that will continue into the coming years is the cost of jail or inmate medical services. Just like our services on the outside, the services on the inside of the jail are increasing. The costs are increasing quite dramatically. Between 2023 and 2027, you're looking at almost a 200% increase in cost at jail medical expense. After we delivered the budget to you, we asked you what you'd like to do. We had about $1 million set aside for your use in funding anything that was not previously recommended, but also from that money to give the Board of Commissioners a contingency fund for those unexpected items that may crop up over the year. After your budget deliberations, you have allocated $447 million of that $1 million and are reserving $552,000 for contingency. Here are the items that have been adjusted since the budget was put out on May 31, and all of this at your direction. An additional $50,000 contribution for one place, a $21,000 savings in animal services, a $5,000 appropriation for both the Sneads Ferry King Mackerel Tournament and the Swansboro King Mackerel Tournament. You have added 2 new deputies. That's 12 months of funding of 2 new deputy positions. You have added 12 months of funding for the Sheriff's Public Information Officer position, an additional $15,000 for the Sheriff's Department training supplies, an additional $25,000 for the Carolina Museum of the Marine, and $5,000 for Friends of the Hammocks and Hammocks Beach and Bear Island. And then the final appropriations that were added, $10,000 for Swansboro festivals, $7,500 for Holly Ridge events, up to $75,000 of reimbursement to replace the Ocean City Beach access point that is owned by the Ocean City Beach Citizens Council. That is a reimbursable item. And then $3,500 for Able Buddies, North Carolina. Going forward in next year's budget, we will be doing these things that you asked us to do. We will be authoring a comprehensive strategic plan. We will begin sketching out the concepts that may be included in a future cultural resource center. So we will be doing planning around that project. There is no project. This is an idea that we are trying to construct with your help to see if we want to add significant cultural resources and recreational resources in our community in the coming 5 years. We will be doing intensive space study projects in both the Sheriff's Department and general government. The Sheriff's Office and the Sheriff's Detention Center, both are very difficult buildings that need specific attention, and we'll be giving those buildings that attention to see how we manage those in the coming decades. And finally, we're already underway on looking at alternative delivery options for our EMS provisions. We are growing very fast over the next 10 years. We already have significant demand on our EMS system, and we have to explore all options to make sure we're ready for this continued growth. Next, you're going to be provided, as soon as I stop talking, we're going to have a public hearing on the budget ordinance and everything that it enacts. We did do some different things in the budget ordinance this year, including statements that charge administration with its way forward. Such as you've charged us in this budget ordinance with creating a set of ideas around cultural and recreation initiatives. You've charged us with coming to you for a nonprofit and tourism fund usage policy. But also in this ordinance, you'll be adopting revisions to your financial policies, which you deliberated on June 3rd and again on June 10th. So you will be adopting those changes tonight if you approve this ordinance. You will be telling the manager that when the next audit comes in, make sure you allocate all unused funds to the appropriate fund balance categories so all of those may meet the minimum standard. And you have also charged us with finding out how to more efficiently and more expeditiously and more effectively manage development in this county and our part of the development so that when projects are getting done, that we are not the ones slowing down the local economy. And finally, among others, you've charged me personally with working with Sheriff Thomas to find options to reduce the burden of involuntary commitment transports. So next, we will open the public hearing, and then it will be your opportunity to consider adopting the budget ordinance. So at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'll open the public hearing for the FY25 budget ordinance. And seeing that no one has signed up, we will close the public hearing and turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, for further deliberation and consideration of adopting the budget ordinance.
Motion to approve the budget as written.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I wanted to jump in real quick because I felt it was important after last year I did not vote to support our budget to give some comments on this year's budget. And I'm happy to say after hours of reading, studying, documenting pages of questions, cross-referencing last year's budget even, sitting in lengthy workshops with the board, and spending hours, which I'm sure Mr. Smitherman would have loved to have poked his eyes out with hot needles instead of doing with me, but he did very graciously and thoroughly, went over pages of questions. I feel really confident in voting to approve this budget. It's not perfect, but it's solid. And in the coming months, the board, as Mr. Smitherman said, will be working to create additional policies which will further streamline our budget process in the future and also be able to incorporate a number of departmental studies which you've heard are currently underway. So just thank you all on the budget team so much for your very hard work. I appreciate it.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When I first became a commissioner in 2016, Onslow County was not nearly as in as strong a position as it is financially today. And I think part of that is due to the fact we made some tough choices. Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Knapp, and Commissioner Buchanan were all a part of that back in 2017 and 2018. We made some tough decisions. You know, we moved to increase our collection rate. We authorized Mr. DeSelms to take action against delinquent taxpayers. We cut some areas. We cut back on construction of new facilities. We took some actions that weren't really comfortable, you know, but sometimes it's good not to be comfortable. You know, sometimes it's good to stretch yourself a little bit and have to do things that you don't necessarily like to do. Because, unfortunately, it's easier to spend the people's money than it is to save it. And recent example, the board approved a pool for the YMCA for $6 million, $3 million in our spending and $3 million for Onslow County Schools since they don't have taxing authority. I see that as $6 million. Yeah, I know it's $1.5 million in this budget for us and $1.5 million for them, and then next year it's another $1.5 for each of us. So that's a total of $6 million. And the point being, no one showed up to even question the spending of $6 million on this project. I mean, even if you're in favor of it, $6 million is a lot of money. So it became easy to spend the people's money. Whenever you had a parade of people coming up here saying how great it would be, yeah, how much they wanted it, and I don't feel comfortable at times spending money myself, and definitely not the people's money. So this brings me to the budget today. On Monday, we had a workshop, and the sheriff pointed out that he would need 2 additional deputies in addition to the ones that County Manager Smitherman had already proposed providing, because he had a mandate coming from the state to provide 2 bailiffs, if my understanding, January 1 of 2025. And so I asked him if we could kind of compromise and not approve those 2 new patrol or 2 new officers and a public information officer until January 1 of 2025, and he agreed to that compromise. So when I left that meeting, I felt good. We had saved the county $150,000 or more, which I felt good about, because I don't think the sheriff would have told me that he could get it done if he didn't believe in his heart of hearts that he could get it done. He said, we can do it. I know it wouldn't be easy, but if it was easy, everybody'd run for sheriff, except me. So, that's the kind of thing where it was a positive step forward. But then we came back into the workshop on Thursday, and that compromise was totally dismantled by a desire to give the sheriff his 2 new officers and public information officer on July 1 of this year. To my knowledge, the sheriff hadn't even asked for that. At least he hadn't asked me. Now, he may have had conversations with someone else, I don't know. So I'm just going based on what I know. He didn't ask me to approve any change in that compromise. So for me, I get queasy spending money that I don't have to spend. It doesn't make me feel good. So I don't feel good about spending an authorization for the sheriff whenever he said he didn't need it till January 1 of 2025. That doesn't make sense to me. But I know I think differently than other folks do, and that's okay. So, for that reason, I feel like we're beginning to lose sight of the objective. It was hard to get here, and you got to realize you got to still keep pressing on. You got to keep having a focus. You can't lose your intensity. I think God has called us all to be good stewards of the people's money. That's my objective. And I just couldn't feel comfortable with a budget that spends money that doesn't have to be spent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, let me throw my 2 cents in here. Part of being a commissioner, we're supposed to be good stewards of the money. That's guaranteed. But our job is to represent all the citizens. Another part of that job is to represent the workers that work for the county that are part of our citizenry. To make sure that they're properly trained, that they have the resources available, that they have the pay for them that is equitable to the outside world. Because it's easier to keep trained people with experience in a job that they have than trying to go out and recruiting someone. And so when we look at the budget, this is what we're focusing in on. It's what we think is best for the public in terms of a budget. Now, I agree with Mark in the sense that I didn't vote for the pool, but that's a dead issue. I didn't vote for the pool because I don't think it's a necessity, that we need to concentrate on necessities. Getting back full circle to the Sheriff's Department, now I'm a retired law enforcement officer myself, and I know Chris Thomas I've known Chris Thomas since November of 1990. We worked joint cases together, and I was with NCIS, he was with the SBI, and then he went to the PD, and now he's our sheriff. The professionalism displayed by Sheriff Thomas is unquestioned. He's the kind of individual that will do what he can for the organization. He doesn't look at himself as an individual. But deep down, having conversations with him, I knew that he needed these people sooner than later. We're going to go ahead and put them in the budget in January. But let me explain something about when you hire officers or special agents, whatever it is. First of all, they got to go through the academy. We go through a federal law enforcement academy. That's about 4 to 5 months. And recently, they've increased it from 600 to 800 hours of curriculum time. That's an additional month and a week, something like that, that's added on. So when you hire somebody, you have to go through the process of doing their background check, getting them interviewed, getting them qualified. There's a lot before you hire somebody, to include polygraph examinations, et cetera. Then when you get them through when you get them through BLET, they go through BLET, and then there's unseen circumstances that could arise, like they may get injured and they have to get pushed back. They may, for whatever reason, they might miss part of the curriculum. But it's about a 4 to 6 month process. And then after that, just like any law enforcement agency, you have an FTO program. That particular person is not certified, even though they went through BLET, or completely certified to perform on their own without the supervision of an experienced officer or agent with them. And that could take up to another year. You can't put, what's the right word? You can't put a money stamp on public safety. You just can't do it. Public safety is one of our biggest priorities, along with our schools. And I believe that Chris needs these people right away. He needs to get them spun up and get them trained so they can be effective next year in 2025. If they get hired in January 2025, they won't be effective in their position probably till November or December of that year. It's another delay. We budgeted for it. We can get these individuals in. Our budget allows it. Then we need to get them hired. We need to get them there so they can they can get their training and help the public, and help the sheriff's office do their job. That's how I feel. And I fully support that. I mean, if I could give Sheriff Thomas, more personnel, I would, but it's all budget controlled. One of the biggest factors of public safety is, if you haven't looked around lately, the crime rate has soared considerably, even here in Onslow County, okay? Across the nation as a whole, but even here in Onslow County. And I've worked law enforcement for 22 years here in Onslow County, and I've seen it get worse and worse and worse. And if we have the money, we need to fund these people so they could be put to service to help the community, because all of us are affected by it. Every single one of them, our kids, our schools, our citizenry, everything is affected by public service. And it's our job to make sure that we have the best public service entity here, the Sheriff's Department, and to give them the funding that we can afford, to give them the funding that they need so they can do their job. Because I know darn well that Sheriff Thomas could use a lot more people in the Investigations Division, Special Victims Division, Crime Scene Division, evidence technicians, detention officers, and the list goes on, because as crime continues to rise, then we need to combat that with trained personnel that can protect us and protect the community. So with that being said, I just wanted to assure everybody that this board fully supports public safety, fully supports our schools, et cetera. Our primary job is the safety of our students, of our citizens, and it's our primary job to be good stewards of the money as well. And we have an opportunity to do both right now. And so I am in favor of this budget, And I applaud all those that voted in favor of allowing him to accelerate the hiring process of these individuals, because it's going to benefit the sheriff's office, but more importantly, it's going to benefit the public. Trust me on that. So, and the other thing I want to say about the budget, the workshops that you guys have put on, when we sat there and went from the very beginning in January, we had our little retreat. It was very, very systematic. This is probably one of the better budget presentations that I've ever sat through in my time as a commissioner. It was very systematic. It seems like a lot was thrown at you, but we piecemealed it. We took little pieces, took those pieces, digested that, and then went to the next part. Workshop, 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 retreat. These are all things that were necessary because I think that helped all of us fully understand the budget in a better way. And it was very professional. And I know it took a lot of hard work from the assistant county managers to all the supervisors and all the workers out there. You've done a lot, and I'm very impressed with the process, and I applaud you, David, and I applaud your staff for the tremendous and professional work that they have done, because I don't think there was a hiccup anywhere from what I can see. So when we pass the budget, take a minute to thank the staff for what they did, because they bent over backwards to make sure that they can give us the healthiest possible budget that we could have. And I applaud you for it, David. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll be real quick, but I think we got a really good budget here. We've spent years up here, some of us, scraping and scrimping to try to make ends meet in our budgets, and we've had to delay things that we really needed to do. More employees, employee benefits. We've had to delay our capital projects, repairs. We've delayed recreation opportunities, and this budget addresses all of that. And I think I appreciate what y'all have done to put this together. Looking forward to the next year when we can actually move this county forward to the place it needs to go.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Any further discussion? Just a couple of things here to end it is I've always shared with people three things that are so important to our nation, right on down to our local counties. That is public safety, education, and our military. And we look at budgets historically, what are the three things that we always look to take away from or fear to add to? It's always public safety and law enforcement, education, and the military. We don't have any control over what we can give to the military other than the relationship we have with Camp Lejeune and Marine Corps Installations East. And I think that is a great relationship because they are a true fabric of this community. One area that we can help and support is public safety and education. This budget has done both because of a funding formula with the Onslow County Schools, allows them to do the things that they need to do, create opportunities that haven't previously been there for students and teachers and everyone that works in the school system. So the funding formula has worked out advantageously for the school system. And as long as that funding formula stays intact, we are always going to have one of the premier school systems in the state of North Carolina, to the point that they receive calls, our county manager, our superintendent. We get calls from across the state of how's that formula set up, because there's no negotiations, there's no haggling. Here's what it is, go forth and do. And they've done a great job of going forth and doing. What I really love about this budget is it's taking care of those two, but more importantly, it is taking care of the people within this organization. And that's what continues to make this organization be the premier organization that it needs to be and make this the coastal community of choice. $5 million to implement a pay plan or study. $1 million for merit pay. $485,000 to strategic planning and culture change. Matching the 401k at a 5% at $301,000. tuition reimbursement to the employees that want to go on and get more education, certifications, $100,000 for certification pay program, $46,000 to improve teledoc, and $5,200 in cost absorption of the dental cost. We want to be the premier coastal community in the state of North Carolina. This budget has done that. It has given us the opportunity to lead us into the future. As Vice Chairman Knapp said, we have had a great year with workshops, retreats, developing a budget that not only meets the needs of our public safety, it meets the needs of our school system, and it goes and supports the people that make where the rubber hits the road, and those are the employees of Onslow County government. With that being said, we have no further discussion, and all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. We have a budget for the next fiscal year with a vote of 6-1 that we are projected forward for success in Onslow County. Mr. Smitherman, I believe we are headed right into another rezoning with...
Yes, sir. We have a public hearing for a brewer rezoning, and Planning and Development Director Carter Metcalf will come present that item for you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Carter Metcalf, and I'm the Director of Planning Development for Onslow County. Our first item before you tonight of 3 is the brewery zoning request, PRZ 2024 number 5. The applicant is Mr. Robert Brewer, and the owners are Roland Susan Prigden. Overview of the request is from Residential 15 to Highway Business, or R15 to HB. 1 property is in consideration, tax map number 1301-10. It is located off of Hubert Boulevard and is in the Swansboro Township. The rezoning area is 0.41 acres, and the property is currently vacant and forested. As we overview the services for the property, there's 2 main water mains and then a water line, a 12-inch Onwassa water main along Hubert Boulevard, and then a 10-inch Onwassa water line. This is because nearby is the Onwassa Hubert water plant. Wastewater for the area is predominantly individual septic systems. However, there is a 6-inch Onwassa sewer force main, but that is located on Freedom Way and not on Hubert Boulevard. Fire service for the area is Hubert Fire District with an ISO rating of 6. Traffic comes a little bit down the road. We pulled it off of Old Highway 172, which is a connector road between Hubert Boulevard and Freedom Way. Traffic count from 2022 was 4,100 trips. Staff estimate the capacity around 15,000. Schools serving the area is Queens Creek Elementary, Swansboro Middle, and Swansboro High School. So we take a look at the zoning map. You can see there the lighter pink is R15, while that deeper pink would be R-8M, and then the blue is that highway business designation. So we compare the 2 districts. The current zoning is residential 15, minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet or 0.34 acres. Its purpose is to accommodate moderate density single family in suburban areas of the county that have access to necessary utility and transportation infrastructure. When we compare that to highway business, there is no minimum lot size, and its purpose is to accommodate regional scale commercial uses and foster economic development along our major highway corridors where there is sufficient transportation and utility infrastructure capacity. So we take a look at the comprehensive plan for Area-Wide Commercial Activity Center, or AWCAC, and its purpose is to provide for areas that are developed or highly suitable for being developed around auto-oriented uses, such as those that are warehousing, or again, things that are dependent on their connection to a major roadway for traffic. We take a look at the comprehensive plan. You can see that in that brown color was the area-wide commercial activity center, and that kind of centered on the major intersection of 172 and Freedom Way. And then outside of that, in that light green, was the high-density residential. The idea is that intersection will serve as a commercial node for that community. If we look at the regulated flood zones, there are none, as well as no streams of any importance. We take a look at reasonableness in the public interest. The proposed rezoning could be considered reasonable due to the property being located on a major thoroughfare of the county and aligning with the future land use map, as highway business is a corresponding category, supported by several policies in the comprehensive plan that support Onslow County having a pro-business and pro-growth mindset with a wide range of shopping choices. The proposed rezoning could be considered unreasonable because there's limited consistency with the character of the area because it is adjacent to residential and not supported by those two policies of the comprehensive plan, which would deal with the buffering and focus commercial around intersections. Take a look at Planning Board. Planning Board occurred on April 4th of 2024, and the board voted unanimously to recommend denial of the request. The applicant was not present at that time, and 4 citizens spoke. Their focuses were the size of the property, regular flooding in the area, zoning permitting a tobacco shop, as well as decreased quality of life. And again, that's what those applicants mentioned at Planning Board. No military impacts were presented, though, during the meeting. So we look at the aerial. Here you can see the surrounding area, and again, that old Highway 172, which we mentioned with the traffic counts. And you can see as well the adjacent Huber-Onwassa water plant. And as well, we take a closer look at the property, you can see it is forested and vacant. Here's a picture of, as well as where we posted the property for tonight's hearing. So it's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of Period Z 2024 number 5 and adopt a statement of consistency and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I will open the public hearing, and we have 3 speakers this evening. The first one is Neil Hebert, or Hebert.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the staff. My name is Neil Hebert. I live at 385 Hubert Boulevard. I own a 2.5 acre lot across the road from the said parcel of land. I've lived there for the last 12 years. My property is approximately 200 yards of Hubert Boulevard frontage. The property in consideration is across the road from my property at the very west end. Over the last 12 years, there has been multiple housing areas erected or enlarged to the east of my property in the Hubert area, specifically down Riggs Road and Parkertown. With these expansions, it has caused very large influx of traffic, and as Hubert Boulevard is a significant travel road, the traffic is horrific at times. I would assume that all the members of the board have driver's license and have recently experienced the ignorance and impatience of today's drivers. Speed limit on Hubert Boulevard is 45 miles per hour. As there is very low presence of law enforcement in the area, the actual applied speed limit is well above 55 miles per hour. Motorcycles seem to know no speed limit. I can pull out of my driveway and head west to work with no vehicles in the mirror. Then I look in the mirror again, I have somewhere out of nowhere riding my rear. And I'm not saying that I'm doing the minimum speed limit either. Just last month, as I was pulling out of my driveway to head westbound, a car in the eastbound lane decided to try past somebody, causing me to swerve off the road back onto my property. Hubert Fire Station and EMS is on the west end of Hubert Boulevard. With the increase of houses, their calls have significantly gone up daily also. Their main route is east on Hubert Boulevard. That would just add to the cause for another accident waiting to happen. The Hubert Post Office is right across the road from my front door. The property is about the size of the property in debate. There are approximately 11 parking spots, 6 of those occupied by the postal vehicles. When the other 5 spots are filled, customers park wherever they can, usually on the shoulder of my property, which is causing wear and tear on my grass. Although that officially belongs to the Department of Transportation, but they don't maintain it in any shape, form, or way, which leaves me with tattered-looking lawn. With the lot in question only being 0.41 of an acre, will the rest of the shoulder be used as parking? Black Friday and December are the worst, not only for parking, but also for heinous traffic. Along with the lack of space at the post office, the location causes multiple traffic accidents, incidents, near misses, tire squeals, horns blaring. In the last 12 years, I've had to replace my mailbox or fix it 5 times. Although that doesn't sound like a low number, how many times have you fixed your mailbox in the last 12 years? Loose garbage is another issue, as the winds are northbound mainly, and the post office and said property are south of my property. I am constantly picking up discarded personal mail packages or improperly discarded post office tags, bags, and labeling strips. Will the new business add to this trash? There are 2 other small businesses next to the post office, a beauty salon and a knick-knack store. They share a parking lot suitable for maybe 6 vehicles at a time. Not very welcoming for customers or ability to increase their business. On top of that, there's a residential trailer behind the 2 businesses that also utilizes the same parking lot to access their driveway. The property at hand is literally marshland. There are snapping turtles and other wildlife that live there. Onwassa has a water treatment plant directly behind the post office and the said parcel of land. Occasionally, Onwassa will drain their tanks. The ditch fills up and flows to the north through the culvert that runs under Hubert Boulevard, then travels through the ditch that perimeters my property. When there is excessive water, it floods my property and the property next to mine. And this also happens with heavy rains, and I have pictures for that. The access to Lucas Lane is also directly across from my property, is another concern that will be addressed by the residents that will be following me. I am in no way against small businesses starting up. I just don't think this property and location is the best interest for such a thing. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next speaker is Jim Lucas.
Good afternoon. I'm Jimmy Lucas, 136 Lucas Lane. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I'm retired. My sister-in-law, brother-in-law, I'm concerned about their home, which is right across from this property that we're talking about. And I agree with this guy in front of me. You would not believe the traffic, motorcycles about 80 miles an hour, post office, traffic crazy. I lost my wife 3 months ago. I know about this porch, this Tom and Kathy that lives in this home. They have a beautiful house, a nice front porch, and they've helped me through my hard time having coffee and talking on this front porch. It is so close, you could just throw a ball right across the street. I just think it's, we have the church this close. We have a few homes right there in that area, and you almost take your life in your hands when you come off of Lucas Lane trying to get on Hubert Boulevard. It's crazy. You get out, you don't see anything, and all of a sudden you go as fast as you can, and some idiot will be right on your bumper. It's a bad situation, I think. And I agree with the planning board. I think they made a good decision. It's just too much happening in that area. And we take pride in our property. If you come out there, you will see that all the grass is cut twice a month. Everything is neat. One of the prettiest places in Onslow County. I'll match it against any place in Onslow County. A lot of hard work. Tom takes pride in his yard. He's planting trees. He's always trimming his hedge and everything. It's like family. And my son is retiring pretty soon from Atlanta. He works with Citigroup, and he plans on building a home here. But after this, I don't know what's going to happen. But I just hope you take in consideration and just drive out the Hubert area. Drive out any day and just see what goes on in that area. And you can understand better than me trying to tell you. I'd like to say one thing. If you have a wife, don't take her for granted, because I lived with my wife 59 years, and it's a hard road. And I just hope that we can live in peace and not have all this additional traffic. And you never know what's going to be in front of my sister and brother-in-law. They were right here, and the property is right about 50 feet right there. And the most peaceful place sometimes just sitting on the porch, and then it's going to mess everything up. So I hope you will consider that, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the final speaker on this public hearing is Tom Fink.
Hi, so I'm Tom Fink, and thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it, really. So I appeared at the April 4th meeting, and basically, we can throw a Frisbee, we're the one on the porch, we can throw a Frisbee to that potential new business. So about 6 residences would be directly impacted. In other words, directly across the street or side by side. Now, to the west, there are some businesses, not the best business in the world. I don't think a lot of you would like to live next to them or across from them. You probably wouldn't want to live across from this if it becomes a vape store, a convenience store. It's probably not going to be a premier store. If it's a 24-hour store, you would really hate it. Every one of you here would hate it. You would be here in droves. And in fact, it almost seems that when you're at the planning board meeting and the planning board goes against it, that we shouldn't even have this meeting, right? Why have this meeting when the planning board, which you hire to do this planning, is against it? And the purpose of zoning is to preserve the quality of life. So you have one person, one couple, Roland and Susan Pridgeon, can make a little bit extra money by having it in a business property, but when that property becomes a business, our property value certainly goes down. Our quality of life certainly goes down. So probably the advantage to the Pridgeons versus the advantage to me would be outweighed by what we lose. And so I hope that you'll reiterate the ruling of the planning board and deny this request. And again, zoning is when you change zoning, it's like a cancer. Not only is it a cancer, it's a metastatic cancer. And so when you develop that, there's something else that's developed and something else that's developed. Now, a lot of development is occurring on Riggs Road, and I forgot the other road, high-end houses. You probably won't see businesses develop there due to the type of housing. So again, I ask you to stop the cancer and to deny this request. And thank you. I appreciate the chance to speak.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this time we will close the public hearing and turn it over to you, sir.
Got a question, an easy one.
Oh.
Motion to deny.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I got a question though, real quick. Did they tell you what the purpose of turning it into highway business, what they're going to put there?
So from what the applicant has told us, their intent is to do a warehousing business. They own another business elsewhere in the county, and they want to use this as a shipping location. However, the board does, as you know, have to consider all potential uses. But that's what the applicant did state on the record for us.
So they want to use that as a shipping outlet?
Correct. They operate another business and where they have inventory. And so they were looking at this as almost a warehousing location for them.
So we're talking big trucks coming into a congested area.
I don't know the size of the truck. The applicant didn't state, but certainly that was the nature of how we
Let me
described it.
rephrase that. More trucks.
Correct. Likely any sort of business would increase vehicular traffic, where they're warehousing or convenience. I mean, any HB business would certainly lend to that.
As a rule, don't we usually try not to create an island of one type of zoning in the midst of another type of zoning? This would be an island of highway business in the midst of residential area, correct?
Yes, sir. Generally, that is good planning, is to reduce that, and that's often referred to as spot zoning.
You said it's open up to other businesses. I thought I read something in I don't know if it's right or not, they intend to possibly put a vape shop there?
That is what, obviously, the concerns that were brought forward at Planning Board. The applicant has not stated such, but obviously they're not, here to speak to that. But that's not what they've spoken to staff as their intent. It could be available, though, because that is a permitted use. They would have to go back and get a special use permit, but it would be available to them.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, yes, sir. Real quick, my tendency is always to let people do what they want to with their own personal property. I think people have a right to do what they want to with their personal property. But there are several issues here that make me uncomfortable and make me feel like this one is inappropriate. The spot zoning is one. I don't like the idea of zoning something in the middle of a residential area. I don't like that that's a tiny lot in the middle of a residential area, and I appreciate that the planning board took the time to hear the citizens and voted to deny the request. So I'm gonna go along with the motion to deny.
Yep.
Tim, I got one more.
Okay.
I sit here and listen to the citizens.
Commissioner Scott.
We had 14 items that y'all mentioned. Speeding, motorcycles, the whole 9 yards.
There's something wrong with our mics.
I truly commend y'all for coming up. And, okay, apologize for that. For coming up and bringing your opinion to us, to bring it out. Several of us had questions about this, and I cannot vote for this. So I'm in favor of the denial.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries to deny the rezoning from R15 to highway business. Mr. Smitherman?
Yes, sir. Our next item is the Cook Drive rezoning. And Mr. Carter Metcalf will present the item for your consideration, then I'll open the public hearing.
All right, our next item is the Cook Drive rezoning, Puri Z 2024, number 6. The applicant is Tidewater Associates, and the owners are Onslow Development Group, LLC. So we do an overview of the request. It's from residential 15, or R15, to rural agriculture, or RA. There are 2 tax map number properties that are in association with the request. And is a portion of them, so 1306E-411 and 1306E-412. It's located off of Cook Drive, which is there as part of the Peyton's Ridge subdivision in the Swansboro Township. And again, there's no direct frontage on that road, and we'll look at the maps to kind of understand its general location. The rezoning area is 9.28 acres of the total 30.11 acres. The existing use of the portion being rezoned is vacant. Look at the nearby water lines. There's a 6-inch on Wausau water line along Cook Drive. and a 4-inch unwashed water line along Larkspur Lane, which is a street stubbing off of Cook Drive. And the properties nearby are served by individual septic systems. The fire service is Northeast Onslow, the fire district, and then the ISO rating of 4. The nearest traffic count that staff could obtain was on Parkertown Road from 2019, so a little older, with the traffic count of 3,000 trips. Staff estimates the capacity of just over 15,000. And then the schools serving the property would be Swansboro Elementary, Swansboro Middle School, and Swansboro High School. Now, as we take a look there, here's the zoning map. You can see there the black outline is the tax map numbers, parcels that are in question. Then the red outline with the hash marks is the actual rezoning area. The rest of the property that's not within the rezoning area is the offsite septic systems, therefore that section of Peyton's Ridge. So no septic systems would be rezoned. This is just the extra area from those two pieces of property. And then you can see as well is it's to the northwest of this section of Peyton's Ridge, which is there to the southwest and certainly south. So we take a look at the two districts, R15, minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet, and its purpose is to accommodate moderate density single-family residential development in suburban areas of the county with that necessary access to infrastructure, and that could specifically support development at that scale. We look at RA, or rural agriculture, minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and its purpose is to maintain that rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county. Now, as you look at the comprehensive plan, its category is rural residential, or RR, and its purpose is to preserve the undeveloped or sparsely developed lands that were not classified as agricultural forestry, and those that significantly contribute to that impression of rural character or of being in the country. We look at the comprehensive plan, you can see it's all rural residential, and there to the south there was some medium density residential. If we look at the flood zones, there are no regulated flood zones. Reasonableness in the public interest, the proposed rezoning could be considered reasonable due to rural agriculture being adjacent to the subject property and aligning with the future land use map, and is corresponding to several policies in the comprehensive plan as it deals with open space. And the proposed rezoning may be considered unreasonable due to the residential zoning being more in character with the adjacent Peyton's Ridge. Take a look at the planning board. At April 4th, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval. There was a typo in your staff report saying they recommended denial, but it was absolutely approval unanimously. The applicant spoke on behalf of the request, and there were no citizens that spoke on it. No military impacts as well were presented. Here you can see an overview of the property, as well as its relation there to the entirety of Peyton's Ridge, there to the south. So while that is a closer look, what it looked like in our aerials from 2022, but on the ground is a little bit of a different look, and you'll see that here. So that is the access way going back to those offsite septics, and we posted within the right-of-way, and you can see their homes under construction and already built. So it's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of PRE Z 2024 number 6 and adopt a consistency statement and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, we will open the public hearing for the Cook Drive rezoning. We have one speaker signed up, and that is Lori Morris.
Good evening. My name is Laurie Morris. I work with Tidewater Associates, and I'm here representing the owner, Onslow Development Corporation. This piece of property is not part of the subdivision on Cook Drive. We thought the developers thought that they would need it for septic, but it's not needed, so they kept it as a reserved by owner tract. It does have access onto Cook Drive. You saw it in the photo. That is the road that goes to the septic systems, but it's also an existing easement that goes to this particular tract. This tract, whatever they do on this tract, they would obviously have to have septic, which the soils would be able to support the septic, and they have water access. And if there's any questions, I'm be happy to answer anything.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, we'll now close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously for the Cook Drive rezoning. Mr. Smitherman?
Yes, sir. The final rezoning this evening is the Smallwood rezoning, and Mr. Metcalf will brief you.
All right, our last rezoning request is the Smallwood rezoning request, PZ 2024, number 7. The applicant is John L. Pearson Associates, and the owners are Diversified Investors. So we take a look at the overview of the request. It's from rural agriculture, or RA, to residential 10, or R10. There's one tax map number in question, 1308-10.1. It's located off Smallwood Road and is in the Swansboro Township. Its rezoning area is 5.93 acres, and the property is currently vacant and forested. Take a look at the services in the area. There's a 4-inch Onslow water line along Smallwood Road and an 8-inch sewer gravity main on Smallwood Road as well. Fire service is for Northeast Onslow with an ISO rating of 4. The nearest traffic count we have comes off of Queens Creek Road, which Smallwood connects to. Traffic count was from 2022 at a trip count of 9,000. Staff estimates the capacity at 13,600. Schools servicing the property will be Swansboro Elementary, Swansboro Middle School, and Swansboro High School. So we look at the rezoning map, you can see the property outlined and crosshatched there in black. There to the west is R10, while then across the street is residential 5. And as well along that section of Smallwood Road is rural agriculture. If you take a look at the request, the current zoning district, rural agriculture, is a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and its purpose is to maintain that rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county. While comparatively, residential 10 has a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet or 0.23 acres, and its purpose is to accommodate the moderate density single family and limited multifamily residential development in urbanizing areas of the county with the necessary infrastructure to support it. The comprehensive plan identified the property as medium density residential, and it's to provide for predominantly stable single family residential areas that also accommodate planned multifamily as well. Look at the comprehensive plans map here. Here on our future land use map, that whole area was identified as medium density residential. So we compare there for the regulated flood zones, there are none, but one item that was brought up at planning board was the stream there to the rear of the property, the Tan Throw Branch stream, and want to point that on the map because that was brought up at planning board. And for reasonableness in the public interest, could be considered reasonable due to the adjacent residential 10 and for residential 10 aligning with medium density residential as a future land use category, supported by several policies in the comprehensive plan, which focuses on us increasing the amount of housing, diversity, size, and type. The proposed rezoning could be considered unreasonable. Again, depends on your view of appropriate density and the proximity there to the stream. In planning board, they recommended approval of the request at their April 4th meeting. The applicant was present and 3 citizens spoke on the request. Their concerns were traffic on Queens Creek, loss of habitat, specifically along the creek, and flooding concerns as well. No military impacts, though, were presented during that planning board meeting. Here you can see an overview. You can see its proximity there to several residential neighborhoods in the area. In a closer look, you can see the property is currently forested, as well as the same from the ground where we posted the rezoning sign. So it's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider their proposed zoning map amendment of PZ 2024 number 7 and adopt a statement of consistency and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'll open the public hearing, and we have one speaker. Mr. John Pierce may come forward.
Good afternoon, John Pierce, 405 Johnson Boulevard. I'm speaking on behalf of diversified investors, actually diversified developers. And I agree with Carter, our future plan, our plan for rezoning R10 does fit under medium density development. We plan on developing this property with putting water and sewer, and we plan on bringing the water from across the road. There's a 6-inch main, that way we can provide fire service, because it's very important if you can have fire service. Your insurance rates are a lot better. And we plan on developing this subdivision into a subdivision, and we got to have we plan on we got to get our stormwater, erosion control. We have had the land checked for wetlands. It's out to the core. There is some wetlands at the rear of the property, which we're not going to be developing at the rear of the property, and there is a branch at the back, but we're going to be well away from it. And I think for the most part, Carter did a good job of covering everything. And unless I'm badly fooled, I think the planning board will unanimously recommend approval of this. And I'll be around if any board has any questions for me. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we'll now close the public hearing and turn it over to you, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
I hate doing this, but I need to. Anytime that I hear something that comes up in the Bear Creek area, I just cringe because of the existing flooding issues that go on out there. And I know some citizens were already bringing it up at the planning board meeting as well. It's really hard to be in this position and know all the details that the people that serve on the planning board know and make a completely educated decision on this. And I really wish sometimes we didn't have to. But my fear is that this is going to be a clear cut. It's going to cause more problems with flooding in that area again. And gosh, I wish we could just like protect some of the lands and not have them cut like that. So I won't support it.
Any further discussion?
Just real quick, based on the map, based on the map that I saw, so where this land is being developed, right, it's a residential, it's surrounded by neighborhoods, correct? On both sides? Right. So you're just doing a section of it, to kind of expanding it, is that what I'm seeing here? Yeah. Hope you have better luck with the mic than I do.
There's a subdivision, I think, to the west of it, which is across the branch. And there's a subdivision across the road. And there's a residence to the left of us if you're facing the property, and a residence to the right of us. There was an existing residence on this, was a mobile home, the property has been lived on. But our plan, I assure you, there's some wetlands to the rear of it, and we're not in a floodplain, and we drain directly to the creek. But to my knowledge, there's never been any flooding issue on this property, because it's probably from the highway to the rear, where your concern is, we're at least 15 feet above that grade. And if it floods there, you better hang on about everywhere in the county. But I just wanted to address that comment.
And that's the point I was trying to get to, because I see, I heard your talk earlier about a couple of people that objected because of flooding, but there's already a neighborhood right there.
Yes, sir. One across the road from us and one at the rear of us.
I mean, so you're putting it right next to each other, you're basically connecting those two neighborhoods.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1 for the Smallwood rezoning. And I believe that is the last of the zonings for tonight, and we have moved the consent agenda item to item 6 with Senior Service Home and Community Care Block Grant Agreement. I think Mr. Clay Calhoun will be presenting on this.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners.
Mr. Calhoun, I hate to do this to you. We need to take about a 2-minute break.
I'll go sit back down, sir.
Get your steps in. We'll call the meeting back to order at this time. Oh, sorry, Mr. Smithman, didn't see you standing there.
With that bow tie, I don't understand it.
So this time, we are going to call Clay Calhoun to the microphone and not make him go back to his seat again. Mr. Calhoun?
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. I'm Clay County Senior Service Director. This evening, I have the Onslow County Senior Services is the lead agency for the Home and Community Care Block Grant Services in Onslow County. This grant, received annually from the Area Agency on Aging, Eastern Carolina Council, provides funding for in-home services, adult daycare, transportation, and nutrition services. The total grant amount is $739,836, with a county match of $82,204, which will be met within the existing senior services budget that you approved this evening. No additional monies will be required. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the Home and Community Care Block Grant Agreement and authorize the interim finance officer and chairman to sign any necessary documents. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
So the reason that I had asked to remove this from the consent agenda and to bring up Mr. Calhoun was the number of calls that I had over the course of the last couple of months regarding concerns from seniors that could not have transportation to and from activities. And so I hoped that he could fill us in a little bit on what happens on a regular basis and any other historical information you think would be helpful and be on the record for any seniors that are, or family members that are looking to understand that better.
Yes, ma'am. The transportation, general transportation is about 15% roughly of the grant, and we use that utilization throughout the entire year. As the funds become exhausted throughout the year due to extreme high utilization, sometimes we have to restrict the number of trips in order to make the funding last the entire year. This past year, we've had a high utilization, whether it's economic or whatever reason or growth. But so we've had to actually restrict funding, restrict travel, so we can make it last the entire fiscal year and not actually suspend services until the new fiscal year starts.
Great, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
This grant, I mean, I think it's great, but I'm reading it. Does this also include research into a daycare facility, adult daycare facility?
No, sir. This does not include any type of research. This would be funding that we would use to operate an in-home adult daycare services. Because at this time, we don't have an adult daycare available. We're transferring that resource to our in-home program so that we're still utilizing staff to provide services to the clients so they can remain in their home.
We are still looking into the possibility.
Yes, sir. Any possibilities come up? I would say in the last month, we've had one opportunity and we looked at it, and it wasn't feasible.
Okay.
Any other discussion, questions? All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. I guess we are now to manager's comments. Mr. Smitherman?
Thank you, sir. 3 items for you this evening. First, I want to introduce to you and to the public Mr. Tom Sherwood. Stand, Tom. Tom is a retired sergeant major in the Marine Corps and most recently worked for the city of Jacksonville for a goodly number of years. And he comes to us, I guess it's been, are you 3rd week on the job? 4th week? Yes, sir. Third week on the job. And he's already integrating really well, and we're super happy to have him. Looking forward to great things from Mr. Sherwood.
What position?
Fantastic. Welcome aboard.
HR.
Okay, thank you.
Director of Human Resources. So sorry. Second, just want to thank you for all the hard work on the budget. I want to thank everyone that was involved in that. You know, it's not the end. Now, this is the beginning, and we're super excited. All of us are very excited on the staff about what we're going to be doing the next 12 months. We want to share what we're doing more effectively. One way we're doing that is by prominently locating these very small pocket cards, just a really brief look at what we've done in the budget, what are some of the things that we're going to accomplish, and we're going to distribute this far and wide throughout our Onslow County community. And finally, I wanted to bring attention to our North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Advocacy Days, in which 4 of us attended last week. My big takeaway there, besides the fact that we have a really great delegation that is engaged in the activities of Onslow County, is that we need to do a better job going forward of creating our legislative agenda. So all of you are on the same page about the things that the board wants to accomplish in Raleigh. And while we did a good job advocating for some very important things for Onslow County, next year we plan to have a much more robust agenda and advance that agenda in the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners legislative goals process so that maybe we can make some of our priorities of our 99 sister counties also. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Who would like to go first in commissioners' comments?
I'll go.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to thank Mr. McGee for his comments. I am the chairman of the Onwassa board, and as such, I felt it was my responsibility to respond to what Mr. McGee had to say. All of the utilities in Onslow County, or in Onslow County and Onwassa and the city of Jacksonville, were always required to install, citizens were required to install what's called an irrigation meter when they put in an irrigation system. That meter didn't go to the sewer, so they didn't get charged for sewer services, for the water that went through that meter. When we acquired the Plurus system, we almost doubled our sewer customers to over 15,000 now. And this is one of the unintended consequences of that purchase, because Plurus has always charged their customers a flat rate for sewer and not based on the usage, their water usage, because Plurus had no way to know what their water usage was because they're not affiliated with Onwassa. Onwassa now is in the quandary of the situation where we have to charge everybody, 15,000 plus sewer customers, exactly the same. We can't make exceptions for one customer and charge everybody else a different rate or different way. We have to have the same fee structure for all 15,000 users. So when Director Howard said that there's nothing he can do about your sewer bill, he's right about that. He has to follow the policies that are set by the board, and we have to follow the laws of the state of North Carolina. What I would say is to Mr. McGee, we appreciate you making the effort to install an irrigation meter, and we are working to find a way in our policy to address the issues that you have with those large sewer bills. I don't know right now what solution we can find, but I can assure you that I have been working with the CEO and the Onwassa board to try to find some kind of way to mitigate the large bills that you have right now. We don't even know how many customers there may be out there that have this kind of issue. We've only had 3 or 4 that actually complained about it. So those are the only ones that we actually know have this issue. So hopefully we can find a solution to help with your past bills, and we appreciate you making an effort to fix the situation in the future. I would invite you to our meeting. Onwassa will have a public hearing and vote on our Onwassa budget on Thursday night at 6 o'clock at City Hall, 6 p.m. at City Hall. And if I have any update for your situation at that time, I'll certainly be letting the public know about that. But mainly, I'd want you to know that we are trying to find a solution that'll work across 15,000 sewer customers at Onwassa. That hopefully we can find a way to help mitigate your issue. That being said, I want to mention the hospital audit. The hospital board has worked hard to get the hospital in a good financial position, and we appreciate that we have a clean, unmodified opinion for the audit for Onwassa and, for Onslow Memorial Hospital. And we appreciate Carl Bieber, the CFO, and Penny Burlingame Deal, our CEO, for their work, and our board for their work in keeping the hospital physically sound. And other than that, it's been a long night. Hope y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Carpenter?
Sure. So I was one of the 4 that did attend the advocacy days for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners had steering committee meetings, as well as we had advocacy days, and were able to talk with our local representatives there, which was very beneficial. I served over the last year on the Tax and Finance Committee as a commissioner, and was really intrigued by the meetings and the training that we had available to us over the course of the last year. The topic of discussion that came up at this last meeting had to do with, oh my gosh, I gave that to you. No, scrap tires, and the funding for that, which seems to be not in our benefit, or to our advantage, I should say, in Onslow County. And so that is something that I know the NCACC is working to address with the legislature, and that's something that will be good and hopefully can save us some dollars in the future. Shout out to Mitch Sprunger, who definitely has a good pitcher's arm. I went to the Ospreys game on Friday night, and he actually crossed the home plate with his pitch, which was impressive. So thank you, that was fun. The airport was actually the main sponsor at the game, so he was there representing the county for that. And the last thing, I really just was so impressed by an event I went to on Friday. It was a real-world activity, and I just want to give a shout-out to Tiffany Hopkins at the Department of Social Services for coordinating a phenomenal event, which I told her I would be sure to mention to my Board of Education friends about pushing further into the school system somehow. The young people, I should say, age 14 to 21 that were there on Friday were assigned a career or a job. They had a salary that they were given, and then they had a checklist, and they had to go through all of these booths, including finding housing and food and insurance and a car and cell phones, and you name it, all these different things that they had to budget for in looking at their future lives, or just how to take care of their lives in the real world. The funniest thing was having them, witnessing them get approached by the sheriff's deputies that were there, because they had Life Happens cards that they would be handed, and there was kids running away from the sheriff's deputies because they would get a DUI, or they would get arrested for something that a fine they didn't pay. And then there was, surprise bonuses for extra money that they could spend. But then there was also things where, hey, you just got a past due water bill that you owe this on. It was so phenomenal, and the kids were really engaged in it, and so were all the participants. And I just think her department did an absolutely great job, and I would love to see that. I know we're not over the Board of Education, but I'm just putting a plug out there for incorporating that into, the real world. It's like what young people need to know. So anyway, with all that, thank you for tonight, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Next.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Price.
I want to thank our state legislators for meeting with us when we went up for the NCACC advocacy days. We were able to meet with Representative Shepard and Representative Cleveland. We tried to meet with Representative Carson Smith, but we were unable to get in touch with him. And Representative Shepard actually broke bread with us that night, had supper with us on, I guess that was Tuesday night. So we got to talk to him a little bit more than some of the others. So that was good. I just wanted to let the public know that the North Carolina legislature and our government, our state government, has two different point of views in regard to the role of state government in education. Speaker Tim Moore spoke to us, Senator Berger spoke to us, and Governor Cooper spoke to us on, was that Wednesday or the next day anyway? Yeah, and the legislators have a different point of view than the governor does, being from opposition parties. The legislators' emphasis is on opportunity scholarships for education without any type of qualification like a financial minimum or basing it on your income, any income requirements. They want to expand opportunity scholarships. Governor Cooper voiced a different point of view, that is to invest in public education and to spend some money there on teacher salaries and that type of thing. So if you are interested in shaping the discussion there, contact your state legislators if you feel strongly on that particular issue. Another thing I was able to be a part of this week was celebration of Juneteenth here at the Onslow County Government Center. There are going to be, I think, 2 celebrations in the community. So just Google Juneteenth Onslow, and I'm sure it'll pop up because I can't remember where they were. Yeah, but there are 2 celebrations. I do remember that in Onslow County for Juneteenth on Wednesday. So have a good evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Price. Next.
Well, I'll go ahead and take it. First off, everybody knows that whenever I see something, I say something, and I want my hat's off to the entire staff on our budget. This is the first time since I've been sitting on this board that I can absolutely say the county commissioners were involved. And to me, that's flipped the switch, very positive in my view. And we still got a ways to go, but the county manager has already said it's just starting. We're already working into next year and how we can improve the communications between everybody. And that is essential to take care of the citizens' needs, okay? I, too, was privileged to go up to Raleigh. We learned a lot more things. It was outstanding to sit down and talk to Mr. Shepard and Mr. Cleveland. I tell you what, they are working hard for the interest of the citizens of Onslow County, and I want to thank them for what they do for us. We talked briefly with Michael Lazar, our senator. He's very positive in what he's attempting to do for Onslow County, and look forward to working with him if I'm on this board or off this board, because everybody has got a word, and everybody's, that does matter to us. And I thank you for the opportunity, and good night.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Buchanan?
Thank you. I guess I get a little bit of word in edgewise here maybe tonight. One of the things I want to say is, you've heard me say over the years, many years, that our employees are the best of there are in the country. And one of the key things is that we're looking out for their future. The 3.7 COLA that we've given you is outstanding. That's a start in the right direction. This other stuff, I know that Chris Thomas is in the back, and him and I have had many conversations about certifications. We're talking about looking at certifications of our employees and give them more benefits. There's a lot more going on with the, I think it's 401k or 501k that we're looking at tight on that, and the doing the market analysis. I know I've been involved with that a couple times, but I think it's going to be a big help. If we can get our employees to be at the market analysis of what their job are, we can keep them here. The idea of anything is to keep our employees employed and make sure that we can keep them, because it costs a lot of money in the future when you have to bring somebody on to replace them. And like you heard Robin say earlier on about law enforcement, getting people trained is one thing, but it takes a long time in that training cycle, because the training cycle is really important. You might do 4, 5, 6 months in the BLET, but then you got, like he was talking about earlier, you get your FTO training. There's a lot of other training that goes on before that officer is ready to hit the street. And it's the same thing with our employees. If you got somebody that's only been here 3 or 4 months, we need to invest in them, and the manager is really into that, investing into our employees. And it's important to me that we invest in our employees, and we always will. You've heard me up here many, many times fight to make sure that you had the right COLA, and it's the same thing with market analysis. We're going to look out for our employees. The other thing, I want to thank the staff, and I want to thank all of our Board of Commissioners for working so hard on this budget. It's a good budget. I'm proud of the budget, and I'm going to move forward from there, and thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Buchanan. Vice Chairman Knapp.
Just to echo Commissioner Buchanan's comments, he's absolutely spot on in reference to taking care of our people. That's not only our citizens, but taking care of our people is our #1 priority, and it starts with the government. our own employees. We have to make sure that they're marketable, that they're getting paid justly. You know, as a leader, you just can't give people money or whatever and throw them out there. You got to give them resources. You got to be able to lead them. You got to be able to teach them. And once you teach them, you can't replace experience. I don't care what kind of degree you have. You can't replace experience. And kind of segueing into that, Sergeant Major, welcome aboard. I know with your being a Sergeant Major with your background, I can. I'm sure you'll get things squared away and pick things up pretty quick. I've spent my career dealing with Sergeant Majors at NCIS, so I know what you're capable of. So, but welcome aboard. I had the privilege Saturday, and I'm going to lead into this because man, you're still here. What's your name, ma'am, in the back, the Hispanic?
Christina Fernandez.
Okay.
Hispanic Latino
All right. Okay. Yeah, so on Saturday, I was invited to be the guest speaker at the Phil-Am Association, which is the Filipino-American Association, to celebrate their independence, the Philippines' independence from Spain, and then subsequently, not the occupation, but the presence of the U.S. that are in the Philippines during those times. And I've personally been to the Philippines twice in the Air Force and with NCIS. It's a beautiful country, absolutely beautiful. The culture is something else. But to me, it signifies the diversity of our community. You know, it signifies the unity of this community, whether it doesn't matter what color skin, doesn't matter what gender or race, it doesn't matter. This is what makes up Onslow County. And it was good to see you here, ma'am. I just caught it, by the way. I just caught the little play on words here, the OLA, the Onslow Hispanic Latino Association, because I kept looking at that word going, what? Oh, that's clever. So well done, and I'm glad you're here tonight. And I'm going to take Commissioner Carpenter's judgment and advice and attend this thing. But I got to show this to my wife because that's cool. Hola. I mean, I didn't even think about it until I read it, and I said, okay, that makes sense. But anyway, welcome and thank you for all that you do. But getting back to what I was saying, diversity is what makes our country. Diversity is what makes our society. Period. You know, there's no room for racism, prejudice, stereotypes, none of that stuff. You know, we're all citizens of Onslow County. As a commissioner, I'm a Republican, but I represent all citizens. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat, Libertarian, it doesn't matter. That's what we're here to do, and we're supposed to represent the people and do the best we can for the people. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And again, David, I just want to say about the budget, the best way I can describe it is very methodical, very systematic, very consistent, and the biggest word is very professional and how it was done. Because I look at it, when you look at the budget process, we're done with it now, but we get to think about it in November again for the next fiscal year. But the way you did it, you know, you took a little grain of sand and you basically built a beach, is what you did. You took one little grain of sand and you hit on areas, you listened to what we had to say as commissioners. I think you caught our attention. We made it a priority, and you understood which each commissioner was focusing in on, and I think that's very key. The retreat, you know, to be honest with you, I thought the retreat was going to be, whatever. But I enjoyed it because I got to meet an individual that knew they were doing. I saw the systematic steps that we were taking, and it was perfect, just like an investigative plan, right down the line. And I applaud you and the staff. I know the staff has worked hard. I know the staff has not always agreed with some of the commissioners because some of us can be strong-headed, so to speak, and I won't mention any names, but yeah, I'm one of them. And I appreciate everything that you guys have done to make this budget, because I feel very at ease with the budget. You know, that's something we don't have to worry about. And I did review every page of that budget. I most certainly did, and it was a well-thought-out document. And I've been a commissioner now going on 8 years. No, I can't even remember. 8 years. And every budget cycle that I've been in, whether it was Sharon Russell or you, it's been smooth. It's smooth, and it seems to be getting better and better. And I applaud you for that. And I'm really proud of our budget. I'm really proud of what the commissioners have done. I think the commissioners are talking more with each other and expressing our viewpoints so they understand where we stand on certain issues, and I think that's a must, and I think it shows the unity and the unification of this board. And as I said before, you know, one person can make a difference, but it's the board majority that votes in what direction we go, and whether you oppose something or approve of something, whatever the board majority votes, then you have to get on board to support that board because a decision has been made. And I think this board is a prime example of that. We've had differences on opinions, but once a decision is made, we move forward and make the best of it. And I attribute that to all the leadership that is here. And I just want to applaud you on that. And the last thing, and to my partner to my left, at 2 o'clock tomorrow, I will be watching on YouTube as Florida State takes on UNC in the College World Series. And I'm not a Tar Heel fan. I'm a Florida State grad, and so I will be either calling him or he'll be calling me to give me tremendous grief on who wins and who loses. So, and the last thing on that, go see the Ospreys. Go see the Ospreys. That's our team in Jacksonville. And if you didn't go to the last game, they should have won it. They blew the lead. It was a great game. They're playing the #1 team in the league. And if you haven't been to an Osprey game, it is amazing. And I got to eat 2 big, fat chili dogs at a game, and that made me feel good. It was all worth it. So next Osprey game, if you get a chance, go please see them. Support, I think his name is Rennie, or something like that, Renna. Support him and his wife because they're doing a fantastic job and they're bringing the community together. And I think it's wonderful that we got baseball here in Jacksonville. Other than that, have a great evening.
I feel like we should take a commercial break at this point.
Oh, you should talk. You should talk.
Mr. McGee, you picked a good night to come here. And on your way to the podium, you had one of the board of directors on WASA sitting here and the chairman here and myself sitting there. So we heard you. What Commissioner Bennett said is they'll be looking at that, trying to take care of that. And I appreciate Mr. Smitherman coming tonight, looking like he would take the defense and a new episode of Matlock. But we're glad he's here to do that.
I was thinking of something else, but I'll pass.
Of making a fashion statement on such a wonderful night.
Something like a circus or something?
And I will finish it with this. From Richlands to Jacksonville, Swansboro to Holly Ridge, Sneads Ferry to Halls Run, the rest of our municipalities, our bases, the sounds of freedom. At the end of the day, our 24-25 budget has been approved, and it is taking and moving us forward to making us the community of choice in coastal North Carolina. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your work. We appreciate each and every one of you, and the board reflects that decision. We are adjourned.
Second.